Hey, what's up, guys? It's Frankie here. We're going to talk about the power of the difference between a client experience versus just managing a client. And you guys are here in my bedroom here in Mexico. A little personal if you guys see some underwear. Sorry about that. So let's get into it. Let's show you how to do this like a boss. All right. So by the way, before we get started, I'm going to highly recommend that you read this book if you want to get great at creating client experiences. This one right here, Joey Coleman, Never Lose a Customer Again. And this is another great one that happens to kind of very much tie in with the other one, called Giftology by John Ruhlin. And what you'll find is that below the idea of the client experience is the idea of seeing the customer as more than just somebody to do business. Yes, Heidi. Heidi B? Should we? There's a Bina. Oh my God, she's telling me in German that there's a B. You want to say hello, Heidi B?
Hello.
So one of the things he talks about in the experience, the book Never Lose a Customer Again, is the 8 client stages and the 8 stages of a customer. And I'll give you an example of one of these. So there's a real thing that happens in our agencies called buyer's remorse. It's somebody, like, say, signs up, they give you $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever your price is. Immediately after doing that, they go through a period of thinking, usually, will I look foolish for this decision that I have just made? And it has nothing to do with you, by the way, and everything to do with the fact that they've been burned in the past and looked stupid and looked foolish and thought, oh man, I just fell for another smooth-talking salesperson. And so when you understand that this is, by the way, stage 3 in the book, something called buyer's remorse, one of the things that you can do is really welcome a client in style. And I first learned this actually not in the marketing space. I learned it in the lawyer space, watching the really top law firms. I was part of a couple masterminds of the top lawyers in the world. And I remember one of the guys said when a client signs up, they had a gift basket, and what it included was just some like little treats and goodies. And in there was a signed photo of the entire team, and it said, welcome to whoever that person's name was. So like, let's just say Jane just became a client. And it said, welcome, Jane. And they immediately mailed this welcome gift basket, and the entire team signed a card. Now, I know behind the scenes that this is a rehearsed part of a client experience, and there's a little pro tip, by the way. Client experiences are created and prepared in advance. What's that, Heidi B? Oh, you're making a sandcastle, huh? So what that means is, for them at this law firm, it looks really customized and personal, like everybody took the time to welcome you personally. But they would actually have a stack of 100 of those welcome pictures, and you would have to sign 100 real quick in 5 minutes and then put them on the desk of the next person, and they would sign 100. Come sit. Oh, we gotta come sit, says Heidi B. You want to say hello? Nope, you guys aren't cool enough to say hello to. So when you have that rehearsed kind of thing going, what ends up happening is it's very easy to welcome a client quickly. So in the case of this law firm, all they had to do was write on it Jane. So everybody had already signed all the cards. Whenever they got a new client, the gift baskets were ready to go, and they just drop them in the mail. And then immediately, as you're thinking, man, I shouldn't have done that, you get a big welcome package in the mail, and they said, we're so excited to have you. And instead of feeling like just like another name and another number, you feel actually appreciated and wanted. And by the way, a little pro tip in that, they've done surveys on it, and the number one reason that, in fact, 79% of people said that they left a business was because they felt unappreciated, taken for granted, and that their business was ultimately not really desired, and that the business itself was indifferent. So one of the easiest things that you can do is to make people feel wanted. It sounds so simple. We do so much pursuing of clients before the sale and so little of getting sand poured on my legs. Thank you, Heidi. Some hairy leg action there for you guys. So we do all this work to, like, you know, persuade people, and then we drop the ball. In fact, one of the worst things that can happen is when you have a salesperson. Imagine they get to know a salesperson, and then immediately that's not even the person they're going to deal with again. It would be like the equivalent of you're going to go get married to Jane, and then the minute you go into bed, Jane says, "Oh, this is Sophie. Nice to meet you. I'm going to go ahead and pass you off to Sophie now," right? That's how we treat business. So you want to really treat people and as deeper relationships. And what will happen is you'll start to realize really quickly that what you're selling is not Facebook ads or AdWords or web design or SEO or those kind of things, but you're actually selling meaningful relationships. And I first discovered this, by the way, when I was really good at SEO. I got a consulting job for a really big shot lawyer down in Florida. Him and his brother have like a massive firm that spends, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising every month. And I went down there and did some consulting for them. And ultimately the result of the consulting was to tell them that they should fire their SEO person and replace them with one of the 3 companies that I recommended. That was like ultimately the value of the SEO. Little aside, it's kind of funny because you know, there was an employee there named Eric, their manager, who's like, "Thank you, I've been saying that forever." But what really shocked me is when this lawyer said, "Oh, really? I go golfing with them." And I just said, out of curiosity, "How much are you paying them?" And they said $10,000 a month. And I looked at the results, and they had been doing, for lack of a better term, like really shitty SEO. And this shitty SEO they had spent $10,000 on per month. And I said, "Well, how long have you kept them for?" And they said, 10 years. And I quickly did some math in my head. 10,000 times 12 months is 120,000 a year times 10 years, which means they've paid that SEO firm $1.2 million to do nothing. But the reason they stayed is because they go golfing together and their families know each other. And so when you start to understand that business is really more relationships, and that doesn't mean you should skip getting people results, but you should really look at your clients as more than what most agencies do, which is, I think, pretty similar to like a credit card with legs. And when you do that, what you'll find is you can put into place some proactive things that treat people like people. And I learned this from Gary Vee, one of his speeches. I don't know, I was at a conference. And Gary Vee said, most of you guys have what I call customer service. Papa? Okay, Papa's got to come back. Something called customer service. And customer service looks like this. You wait till somebody's unhappy and then you deal with it. And that is playing defense. And he called something that he built into his company called a department of gratitude, which is playing offense. And he gave an example of they got a new customer from Chicago who was a huge Chicago Bears fan. And he knew that because he spent 5 minutes creeping his social media profile. And he was like, "Wow, I see all this Bears stuff." So he sent him a Brian Urlacher jersey, which is a famous middle linebacker for the Bears who played a couple years ago. And you'd be amazed at how much more business that person wants to do with you when you send them a Brian Urlacher jersey and acknowledge that you appreciate who they are beyond just the business transaction that you're doing. So if you do that, what you're going to find, and read those books, by the way, because they're awesome, you're going to end up with clients who are like just really happy with you and stay a long time, and then you don't have to always be selling and always be hustling. And it took me probably a good 10 years to understand this because I got really good at the selling and marketing side, but not so much good at the delivering and keeping people happy and setting expectations. Yeah, Papa's staying here, but I got sand in my underwear thanks to you. Do you want to go in the pool with Papa? No. There you go, I'm being bossed around by a toddler. So I may look alpha, but I'm not. So anyways, I hope you guys found that super helpful, and make sure to subscribe if you're not already, and may the force be with you.